Alright, so big news coming in from the aviation industry. GoAir aircraft has experienced an in-flight medical emergency due to which it had to divert, and it carried out an emergency landing at the Karachi airport. And I thought that why not make a video explaining about the procedures carried out in flight after an in-flight medical emergency situation occurs, and we'll also talk about the GoAir situation. So if you guys are ready, fasten those seatbelts because we are ready for takeoff. What's up fellow aviators, and welcome back to the FlyTuber, Flying Simplified through YouTube. My name is Ali Asghar, and on this channel I talk about interesting aviation facts and aircraft knowledge. So if you are an aviation enthusiast and are interested to know more about aircrafts and flying, consider subscribing. So this Tuesday afternoon, a GoAir aircraft flight number 6658 took off from Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, and it was headed towards New Delhi when the cockpit crew had to divert to Karachi in Pakistan due to a medical emergency on board. The aircraft was in the vicinity and in the airspace of Pakistan when a 30-year-old person on board started feeling uneasy and eventually fell unconscious, and all the efforts of providing a first aid or a CPR were all unsuccessful, and the cockpit crew had to divert, and they declared a medical emergency and landed at the Pakistan's industrial capital, which is Karachi, which happened to be the nearest airport. The pilots followed all the procedures, and they also requested for medical assistance and ambulance upon arrival. The aircraft landed safely, but upon examination by the medics, the passenger was declared dead on arrival. Now this was a very uncertain and an unfortunate incident, but let's look at what happens and what are the procedures followed on board an aircraft if any such medical emergency situation arises. Now firstly, medical emergencies are broadly categorized under two, which is injury based and health based. Injury based is whenever an injury happens on board after the flight has taken off, for example due to turbulence or luggage falling over a person, or a passenger hurting himself by tripping in the galley area or burning themselves with any hot liquid, for example. And the other is health based, wherein a passenger having certain type of health related medical history, for example, might develop symptoms of that particular illness once again, or even unprecedented and unannounced sudden health issues on a particular passenger, health issues like breathlessness, vomiting, nausea or unconsciousness, etc. These things might happen on board an aircraft. Now the cabin crew and flight attendants on board are very trained professionals. They are trained to perform first aid and certain very basic but life-saving medical assistance procedures like CPR, etc. And this is the reason why in the 1930s almost all of the flight attendants in the entire United States were professional nurses, which is very understandable. Did you know this fact? Now once health issues with a particular passenger has been identified, and the identification can be done by direct observation by the cabin crew, or the passenger himself or any of his companions or nearby passengers might identify the problem to the flight attendant. But once that has been done, the cabin crew have their own set procedures that they need to follow. So the first or the nearest cabin crew to identify the situation will take charge. They look into ABC, which is airway, breathing and circulation, whether these are clear and normal, and then they'll try and possibly find out what the problem is. And if the passenger or any of his companions inform that the passenger has a medical history, like asthma patients might need those breathing pumps, or a diabetic patient might need some dose or certain type of food, for example, the cabin crew will help with all this and try and control the situation as much as possible. Also, the aircraft has first aid kit, medical kit and universal precaution kit. The cabin crew will utilize medical supplies from these kits to try and control the situation if possible. They'll also give a PA announcement asking if a medical practitioner, a trained and professional one, is available on board, and if at all a passenger comes forward, they'll have to prove that they are trained and professional, be it in digital copy or any particular certificates, but once proved, they'll ask them to assist in the situation if they possibly can. But we as pilots have our own set of procedures and different course of action that we need to take in the flight deck. But before we talk about that, if you like this video, hit that thumbs up button and do subscribe to the channel. And like always, if at all you need me to make a particular video on a topic, feel free to comment down in the comment section or also on my Instagram DM. I'll put that somewhere here. We as pilots need to respond and deal with in-flight emergencies depending upon the nature of the problem, the urgency of the situation, and also on the location and in which phase of flight did the in-flight medical emergency occur. If the situation is not immediately life-threatening, we as pilots need not take any major action like starting to divert or calling the ATC and informing them, etc. But irrespective of the level of threat, the cabin crew will let us know that the medical problem is happening back in the cabin, and immediately at that time, at the first instance wherein we get to know that the problem is happening back, we need to start assessing our present situation, our location, etc. And we need to start planning in case the situation deteriorates any further and if we might need to divert. Now this is because, like many other situations in aviation industry, this situation is also very time critical and we need to take action immediately. Alright, so based upon the situation, we need to take a decision as to whether we should continue the flight to the destination or we should divert to a nearest airport. If the situation deteriorates, we might have to divert, because of which we have to do diversion planning immediately. And while we are doing diversion planning, we need to keep certain things in mind, like which is the nearest airport, is it suitable for us to land with this aircraft, what is the length of the runway over there, what is the strength of that runway, what is the aircraft weight right now, do we have the fuel, what is the weather overhead that particular airport, and whether we as flight crew will bust our FDTL limitations, which is flight duty time limitations. I'll talk about that and make a separate video, link it here whenever I have made that video. And most importantly, whether it is even worth diverting to the particular airport, because there are certain airports in remote locations with very limited or no medical services and assistance, and it'll be a huge waste of time planning for such airports, because we might not be able to save the life. If the situation of the passenger does deteriorate and it is clear that he needs more than the very limited assistance available on board, then you might have to declare an emergency using a pan or a mayday call. I'll talk about that later. But it depends upon the level of urgency and situation of the passenger, and you also have to divert to the nearest airport, the one which you decided earlier. And even if everything came under control and everything became normal, the flight continued to the destination without having to divert, etc., the flight crew will have to give a report on the particular situation and the happenings on that particular flight. Basically, what I'm trying to tell here is that we need to plan as soon as possible on a particular diversion, etc., or our course of action, so that if we do need to take a particular action, the plan is already set. We just need to execute whatever we have decided on. And this will also save you time, your efforts, and might save a life. Now, the two big lessons that we need to take from all these set procedures of in-flight emergency handling, etc., is that firstly, everyone involved in the operation of the airline, especially the cabin crew and the flight crew, are very trained professionals, and they will for sure give their 200%, more than what they possibly can, to try and save a life. And secondly, a very beautiful and important message here is that helping a person in medical emergency is a humanity thing. If you might have overlooked the fact, no Indian airlines or aircrafts are flying and providing service to Pakistan and vice versa. But because of this in-flight emergency, the aircraft did divert to the nearest airport, which happened to be Karachi, and the people over there did not hesitate to help, and without any hassle, all of the procedures were followed. The flight landed, they provided the emergency and medical and ambulance services, etc., especially amidst this very recent rise in tensions between these two countries at the line of control, if you know what news I'm talking about. So this incident and all these procedures that I explained to you is a very fitting example to show that all the individuals involved in the aviation industry are very trained professionals whom you trust your lives with, and that you are safe if you're flying in an aircraft. Question of the day: have you ever been on a flight that was diverted due to in-flight medical emergency, or at least if the flight wasn't diverted, at least was there a particular medical emergency or a medical situation created on board an aircraft that you were flying in? Let me know in the comment section below. Well, that's it for this video, guys. I hope that you liked the video. If you did, hit the thumbs up button and do subscribe to the channel and share this video with as many friends as you can, because that will motivate me further to make such amazing content. And like always, you can always forward your interested topics over on this comment section or on my Instagram DMs. I'll try and make videos on those topics. I'll see you in the next video with a very interesting topic. Until then, happy landings.